Welcome to this ASP.NET Core Gantt Chart tutorial. With the Syncfusion ASP.NET Core Gantt Chart, you can easily manage your project from start to finish and visually track hierarchical tasks across a timeline, making complex projects easier to handle. In this video, I will walk you through the steps to create an ASP.NET Core app, integrate the Gantt chart, and configure some of its key features. I will start with the ASP.NET Core Web Application creation process. For this, I need to make sure one of the following .NET SDKs is installed on my machine. I also need to install one of these IDEs. For this video, I am using Visual Studio 2022. To create a new ASP.NET Core Web App, I open Visual Studio 2022 and create a new project from the project dashboard. From the list of project templates, I choose ASP.NET Core Web App and name my project Gantt Example. Here I choose .NET 8 as the target framework and click Create to complete the project creation. The project has been created and is ready to use. Now let's add the Gantt chart control. First, I need to install the Syncfusion EJ2 ASP.NET Core NuGet package in my application. Let me open the NuGet Package Manager by right-clicking the project and choose Manage NuGet Package. Then I search for the Syncfusion EJ2 ASP.NET Core package and install it in my project. Once the installation is complete, I navigate to the View Imports file and import the Syncfusion EJ2 TAC helper. Next, I open the program file and register the trial license key by using the register license method. For instructions on generating this license key, refer to the link in the description below. I then need to define the CSS for the Gantt chart control. I navigate to the layout file and reference the CDN link inside the head section, which includes the combined CSS references for all the Syncfusion ASP.NET Core controls. Then I add the script reference here using the CDN link to render the Syncfusion ASP.NET Core controls. I also register the Syncfusion Script Manager at the end of the body section to add the Syncfusion ASP.NET Core controls on the application end. Now everything is configured, so let me add the ASP.NET Core Gantt chart control. First, I need to open the index.cs HTML file and remove the default code snippet. I include the Gantt chart control with the ID. To populate the data source, I open the CS file of the index.cs HTML. Here, let me define the model class, Gantt data source. Then add fields like task ID, task name, start date, end date, etc. In the index.cs HTML file, I create a list of objects named Gantt data source collection of type Gantt data source. Include a code to create a list of data. Here, I have added record 1 as parent task with 3 child tasks. In the same way, I have added record 2. Finally, I have added it to the Gantt data source collection. Next, I need to bind this data source to the Gantt chart control. So, let me assign the Gantt data source collection variable to the data source property. For this data source, the appropriate data source field name should be mapped to the fields property. So, I add the Gantt task fields definition and map data source fields to the task values such as task ID, task name, start date, end date, duration, and progress. I also map the subtasks field from the data source to the child property and set a custom height to the control. Now let me run this example. See here, the left pane has a tree grid, and the right pane has a chart with a project timeline to represent the project duration as individual cells with defined units and formats. When I collapse or expand the child records, it will be reflected in the timeline. By default, the tree column index is set to 0, which refers to task ID. Let's see how to change it to the task name column. Set the tree column index to 1. Now the expand button is shown in the name column. Notice here, the column names are displayed as they are in the data source field names. However, you can customize the field names and display only the selected columns. To do that, I define an Gantt columns definition. Inside it, now add the Gantt column definition to customize a single column. Let's take a look at a few more options for customizing the tree grid columns. I include the field property and map the task ID field from the data source. Next, I add the header text property and set its value to task ID. After that, let me customize the default width by using the width property. And align the column data by setting the text align property to right. I define the other columns in the same way. Then apply the custom date format to the start date column by setting the format property. See now, each column displays a custom header. The task ID column data is right aligned, and the date format is applied to the start date column. The Gantt chart has different built-in timeline views such as hour, day, week, month, and year. Here, the week timeline mode displays the weeks in the top tier, while the bottom tier displays the days. To change the timeline view, I add the Gantt timeline settings definition and set the timeline view mode property value to day. Now the day timeline mode is rendered in the chart. The upper tier displays the days, and the bottom tier displays their corresponding hours. Before going further, I am changing the timeline mode back to week. Finally, let's see how to display task dependencies in the timeline. The available types are start to start, start to finish, finish to start, and finish to finish. Notice that the task 4 predecessor is set to task 3. This type of dependency is finish to start. I add the dependency property in the task field settings and set its value to predecessor. As you can see, task 4 is dependent on task 3, and I cannot start task 4 until task 3 is completed. Likewise, task 3 is dependent on task 2. Let's summarize this video. I've shown you how to create an ASP.NET Core project using Visual Studio 2022 and add the Syncfusion ASP.NET Core Gantt Chart control to it, along with a few of its basic features. If you want to try out the example used in this video, download it from the GitHub link in this video's description. I have also shared a link in the description to learn about obtaining a free license key to use our ASP.NET Core controls through our community license if you are eligible. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel.